Hey guys, welcome to the farm. Little Rick here today. Before we get started, I just want to go ahead and invite you guys to subscribe to the channel. Ring that little notification bell by the subscribe button for notifications on future content. And let's jump right in. Enjoy the video.
Get it. Oh, she laid down for you, and then you. That's a Delaware. She laid down for you twice.
Hey Homestead friends, how are you? This is the second of our 2 chicken coop videos that we're doing sequentially. This is our back coop. This is the coop that's new. This is the coop that we just finished up last fall. And this houses exclusively our laying hens. So it's attached, as you can see, to the back of our goat barn. So we had this pole barn built for the goats, and then we built this chicken coop structure on the back of it. So the dimensions of just this coop are 12 foot wide by 24 foot long. We've got a 12-foot loafing area, which is this area right here that's uncovered for the goats on either end of the chicken coop. So come over here. So this is the western side of the coop. So you'll notice the big difference between this coop and our first coop. That's Doofus in the background. So you'll notice the difference between this coop, the main difference between this coop and the chicken coop up front that Rick can put a card up here to that video, is that one has half-inch hardware cloth all the way around it, top to bottom, front to back. This one has 3/4 inch plywood on it. And the reason is that this, he's irritating me now. So this coop is co-located in our goat paddock, in the main doe pen. So they tend to like to hit things. So once they start making some progress on destroying something, they just keep hitting it. So Doofus, he was inside till I come out here. Now he's coming here just to make noise for me. So this is all surrounded by 3/4 inch plywood, and it's mainly to keep the goats from hitting it. On the bottom, I've got galvanized steel that goes into the ground, and then on the upper part where the goats can't get to, again, we have half-inch hardware cloth. All of it is, again, 2x6 construction. Sides, the hardware cloth is held on with 2x4, just like the coop up front. Some of the features we have on this coop that we don't have on the other ones. First is this access door. This is a solar door. It opens every morning at 6 a.m. and closes every night at 8 p.m. It's run from this solar panel that sits right above it up here on the roof. The controller is inside. I'll show you that when we go inside. But similar to the coop up front, you'll look right here, it's easier to see, is this 2x4 metal fence, steel fence, that goes underground here as well. So it's the same thing. That's what this board is for. It holds that wire onto the barn, and then that predator prevention wire runs underneath. So it's down buried about 3 to 4 inches right as I'm standing on it. So any predator would have to start digging way back here to get into this coop. So you'll note that in this door, you'll see a cinder block sitting. People ask, why do you got a cinder block sitting there? Really simple. A baby goat can fit through that door, and baby goats do fit through that door. With a cinder block in it, baby goats can't get through that door. Chickens still can. So that cinder block stays there, so the baby goats can't get up in there. So moving around, we have the same style of water catchment system that we have up front. I would consider this one a little bit more advanced as a gravity-fed water catchment system can be. But I was kind of experimenting with this one. That one up front, I used a traditional eave trough to catch the water. This one, I just took a 4-inch pipe and I cut it on the ends, and I basically just pulled it apart and then squeezed it over the lip of the steel galvanized roofing material. and it works incredibly well, much better than that one up there, with no leaks whatsoever. To my knowledge, I've never seen that done. I haven't found any YouTube or Facebook videos, but it works really, really well. So when we'll be doing later this year, sometime probably next winter, still another chicken coop, mainly for our roosters, so that I can start breeding select breeds. I will go through a whole video on that catchment system. It works really well. Alright, so this is nothing more than a 4-inch pipe. That 4-inch pipe comes down through here and then goes into a water barrel that sits on the inside. Now, I agonized over where to put that water barrel because I didn't want the chickens pooping on it, and it really hadn't been that big of an issue with the chickens pooping on it. I couldn't put it out here because, again, the goats would hit it. Originally the plan was to stick it like right here until I thought that plan through, so we've decided against that. So now it sits inside on its own pedestal. So people have asked me, how do you clean it out? We've got a door down at the other end. We'll go in there to kind of show you the inside, but you'll notice that each one of these 4x4s here go down, and then I've just got this piece of plywood attached to it. The only thing holding this plywood on is about 6 screws each piece. So I take these screws off, back the screws out, take that panel off, and it gives me complete access to the inside underneath the roost to clean it out. So then it's just a simple issue of pulling the tractor bucket up and raking the old material out from underneath the roosts. So because we use the deep litter method, Rick will put a card in up here, we don't have to clean these coops out a whole lot. Generally, we do them about once a year. What we generally do is in between cleanouts, we will come in, we will go where the waste is the highest. We'll just flip it with a pitchfork and then throw another layer of straw on top of that. What ultimately ends up happening is that straw decomposes inside of the chicken coop. So we clean it out about once a year, and it goes directly from here into the composting bin, and then that will ultimately end up in the garden. But that's how we clean it out, is we take these panels off the side, and then we have direct access to all of the roosting bars inside. So these just pop right off. They're not secured on there, other than with these, I think there's 8 screws per panel, and then you can just put a broad fork in there, or pitchfork, or a rake, however what your preference is, and it comes right out. So this is the other side. Again, designed the same as the other end. And we got additional loafing area on this end for the goats. So altogether we've got, at last count's around 90. We sold some in the spring. Altogether it's about 90 to 100 at last count in this coop. So people have asked me, isn't this a whole lot of effort just to build a coop next to your goats? Why wouldn't you just do a standalone coop? And it's a great question, and the reason is really, really simple. These chickens by nature want to scratch. They want to, instead of feeding them, don't get me wrong, they love to be fed, but they also love to scratch and find worms, find any kind of protein source in the soil that they can get. So you'll see all of this is where they have scratched into this bedding. So here is a good example of a single worm, and that's what these chickens go after. Is there's worms and all kinds of grubs and everything underneath this rich soil, because this is where the goats use the bathroom, this and out in the pasture. So we use the chickens as essentially one additional measure or another additional form of parasite control. It doesn't fix it completely, but we do not use a whole lot of wormers, and in part we attribute that not only to LaLa's goat management style, but also these chickens. So as much as she wants to curse my chickens, she doesn't like my chickens really at all. She likes her goats, she don't like my chickens. As much as she wants to curse my chickens are helping her goats exponentially. So this is the main gate from the outside. Now, we rarely actually use this door. This door is used mainly for cleaning it out. If we want to get into it while we're out in the back pasture, we can. Normally we've got another barn or another door that comes in from the main barn structure. I'll show you that in a second. So the girls are kind of confused as to why this door is open right now. And you'll see this Easter egger sitting right here. This Easter egger has been sitting on a non-fertile clutch of eggs. Actually, there's supposed to be 2 fertile ones under there. I don't think they took because they were one of our other egg experiments that we're doing. That will come out in a later video regarding incubation. I took a few of the eggs that were may or may not be fertile and stuck them up underneath her. She's been sitting there for about 3 weeks now, and just as a really, she's now got under her, well, there's another brown one, so I'll take that one. But all of these are Easter eggs that may or may not hatch out. I'm not really sure. We'll see. But instead of roosting up in one of the boxes, she's just decided she's going to take up residence in the corner. So here we are on the inside of our main layer coop. Again, we've got equipment depending on whether or not we're using it or not. We've got a couple of just regular steel pens in here. These are where we put chickens that for one reason or another we're trying to isolate. Maybe they're getting pecked on, maybe they're ill. So we'll put them in here depending on if it's something that we're concerned that might be contagious, then we will take the whole thing out. We really don't have a problem with contagion type of diseases. Really, when we isolate them, most of the time it's due to one of the lower ordered hens getting pecked on. There's one in particular that Madeline, we have her in here about every other week or so because they go after her tail feathers. In fact, she doesn't have a single tail feather on her, but I looked at her yesterday. She's looking pretty good. I digress. Okay, so this is set up the same way. We've got 3 through-wall feeders here. These are all 3 little giant feeders that we're using. We load them from inside of the barn. I'll show you that when we go out. Well, this is actually the one, this is the one that gets pecked on. So this is the one that I was just talking about that normally gets pecked on. So about every other week she'll end up being put into one of these cages. Obviously we clean them out. And this is what I believe to be the lowest pecking order chicken in our entire flock. And I know this by her tail feathers never get to grow out. They peck them off, and sometimes it becomes bloodied, and when it does, we have to isolate her and let that heal. But other than that, she's a really easy handling hen. So I'll let her eat. So this is a through-wall feeder. They go in here. We've got 3 that we load from the outside, and I'll show you that in a bit. This is the door that goes into the main barn. So if you've been following along with us for any amount of time, you know that we used to have rollaway nesting boxes in here. We swapped them out for just a traditional nesting box because you can see how we raise the birds here. We don't confine them at all. They can go lay eggs wherever and whenever they want. So what we found is that they were preferring not to lay in the nesting boxes because it did not have a natural bedding material in there. So I did another little experiment, put some straw in there, and they tended to prefer even the automatic nesting boxes that had straw in them. So we pulled them out, put these in here, and now you can see that these birds are laying in these boxes again. We did a previous video on that. Check out the card above for the one concerning our best nest boxes that we pulled out to replace with these wooden boxes here. So this we got all together 18 nesting boxes that they use. We pull eggs daily. We got a few broody hens right now, mainly the Delawares. So that's that. All right, so we've got the feeder here through the wall. These are where we give them their ration. And depending upon the time of the year, depending upon egg production, I swap out their feed between a 22 and a 16% protein feed. Most of the year they're getting a 16% until we get up to around November. Then I put them back on a 22. Around March I cut it back to a 16, and then during the heat of the summer when they start slowing down again, I move that up to a 22. When they're on a 16% protein, That's got sufficient calcium in there, so I don't worry about calcium intake. But when they're on the 22, that's got relatively lower calcium. So that's what this is. This is free choice calcium. We just leave this in here year round, and they go through that and use it as needed. So if we look over here, this is the watering barrel. So we saw the water catchment system on the outside. It runs into this rain barrel, and just like the system up front, we use just this gravity-fed stainless steel hose to feed it to this bar. Now, so you can't really tell, but there's a big difference between the nipples on the watering bar in the front coop and the nipples on this bar, and that's by design. Again, I wanted to see which one the hens tend to prefer, and by far the ones that we have on the other coop are the more preferred nipples. So the ones up front are basically a little cup. So when they peck on that, when they peck on the nipple, it basically spills the water into a little cup. So they can take that water out of the cup. This here works by just tapping on this nipple right here. Now the difference is the one up there I can have flat, and there's not a whole lot of leak through because the water comes out of the nipple and goes into the little cup. On this one, any water that they don't catch drips down onto the ground. So this patch back here always stays really wet, which I don't like. So I like the other nipples, and at some point I'll probably swap this out with the nipples with the little cup on it and get rid of these. I don't like these. These actually have to have back pressure, meaning that's why this is tilted forward. These actually have to have back pressure on these nipples in order to work. The ones up front don't need any back pressure. It just needs to have the water in this pipe right here. So these are, the Delawares are not happy with me being in here. So these are the roosting bars. Roosting bars are all on this back wall. Now this was a design change from the coop up front. The coop up front, remember we had the nesting bars inside of the upper coop part. That's where I thought that they would end up roosting, but they ended up roosting on the rafters. So what I end up getting up there is I've got poop from one end of that coop to the other, whereas back here I didn't want them roosting anywhere else except on one side. So all of these roosting bars are stacked up on one side. The food and the nesting boxes are intentionally on the other side. So these panels on the back wall, this is what we looked at from the outside. So these panels simply get unscrewed and pulled off, and allows me to rake all of this back to the outside. So this is a new egg that they laid down there today. All right, so this is the last portion. We're almost done with this coop. So this is the door on the barn side. So coming in from the other side where we were. So as we come out, you'll see these are the 3 through-wall feeding boxes. These are little giant feeding boxes. I like these for the application that we're using. The cinder blocks on the back side of the box simply help keep it pressed in. You know, they can push on it, or people out here. We also have the goats in here from time to time, actually every day, to feed them. So they can come over here and push on this, so we just keep that on there as a weight. So you pull that back. That's the feeder hole, and these cleats right here just help us kind of push it in there and line it up. So we do get a little bit of feed out here that's wasted, but the chickens pretty much keep this cleaned up. Here we come out time to time and just kind of sweep it out of there. All right, so that's where the feed is, and then we keep these barrels here is actually our feed store. So instead of keeping it in bags, we've got 2 barrels. This barrel is what we keep the feed in. Once we start getting low, then we will load this new barrel up with new feed and dump what's left into here into this barrel. So we're always using the older stuff first. This barrel right now is empty because we don't have anything in it, obviously. So that's it for this coop. If you got any questions or anything, make sure to leave that in the comments section below. We love to get questions. We love to be able to answer any questions or provide comments regarding, how we've done things here on our farm. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to ring that notification bell so you get a notification of future content as it's released. So remember, always treat others as you would like to be treated. Thanks for visiting the farm. Be well.